Howdy everybody, Eric here, driver lineup, world's okay steering wheel holder, checking in with you with another video. Just woke up, just got dressed, I ain't even brushed my teeth yet. Actually, there was a conversation like a week or two ago about brushing teeth, and someone asked like when and where do you usually brush? I usually brush my teeth when I'm doing my pre-trip. Maybe you have some negative opinions of that. I don't know. Don't care. That's when I brush my teeth. I'm already outside. I'll have a bottle of water that I sit on the steps, and by the time I work my way around the truck and get to the hood, I rinse off my toothbrush, put it in the truck, and then finish my pre-trip. So I haven't even done that yet. So I'm at Flyjet. Look at, we were talking about in the last video parking. This is where I parked this morning. This is how defensive and bonusy, I don't know if you see it in the mirror, bonusy I park. I didn't even need to bonus park. Some people call it creative parking. Jenna and I call it bonus parking. If it fits, that's where it sits. And if it's not a designated parking spot, but you've made a parking spot, then it's a bonus spot. So it's bonus parking. I didn't even need to bonus park this morning, but I did anyway, because anytime I can do something to help avoid getting my hood ripped off, I'm gonna do that. And this dude was parked here in front of me, and there was a truck parked in back of me over here on the curb, so that's what I did. So I had a conversation with married prime team last night. I had a load last night. It was hard to make work. I actually am convinced that it was actually a team load, because it's when, and I'm going to get to the Freightliner versus Peterbilt, trust me. So for the few trolls that are probably just seething, because believe me, this is partially a reaction in response to some of the troll comments. I'll get to that. But last night I had this load that had 17 hours between the pickup and the drop off, a 17-hour window, and 400 miles. So it was just stupid good pay. It was like almost $4 a mile, and light. It weighed 6,000 pounds. So, and I'm over here in Tennessee, so I'm going up mountains, just blowing people's doors off, blowing the doors off every prime truck, but also it's just kind of like where you enjoy the moment, because a couple days later you'll be that prime truck doing 35 miles an hour going up a mountain. But that wasn't me last night. Anyway, so you got 17 hours between the pickup and the drop. So I knew I was going to have to do a split just to get to the customer, because I had to extend my 14 to 17. So I had to do a 7-3 split. Or there's just no way that, even if I got there right at the appointment time, that would be the end of the 17-hour window, and thus I would have to do everything on duty and then PC out of there. So that was kind of worst case scenarios, that I got there right at the appointment time and just had to do on duty and then PC, on duty yard movement, docking and doors, checking in, paperwork, all that stuff, and then PC out of there. It would have been not the best scenario, but it would have been okay, because there's truck stops close to there, and it was this morning, so I knew I'd be able to find it. I wouldn't have to PC forever. But I had extreme difficulty coming across 40 finding parking, even for that I think I stopped for like 4 hours, took a nap for a few hours, and then so that I got my split in. But man, I'm confused. I'm confused as to why most carriers are downsizing their fleets. The vast majority, including Prime, obviously, downsizing their fleets. And a lot of owner-operators are out there on YouTube saying they're throwing in the towel. But how is it that parking is worse now than when I took a break from trucking? How is it that parking's worse? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Now, Tennessee's never been great for it anyway. But it was bad It was bad. I mean, I couldn't bonus. I couldn't get creative. I couldn't even hardly get through any way station, rest area, truck stop, anywhere. You couldn't even hardly drive through any of them, much less find someplace to park. I got really, really fortunate at the only 100 miles from my 90, the receiver. There's a rest area, horrible rest area. It's one of those you get off the interstate and go loop around, really thin roads with big curbs. Like whoever designed this shit, hopefully doesn't get hired by a lot of companies. I mean, it's probably only government. That's the only place it would make sense to hire someone who designed something like this. It is not truck friendly. Trying to go through all these curves, go underneath the interstate, and then you get over to where the trucks are, and even if there weren't trucks bonus parked, you're still gonna tap some curbs and have some trees go over the top of the trailer. But there were trucks bonus parked, so I survived somehow getting through all that. And then when I came out there along this long road to get out, there was room over on the shoulder, and a truck had pulled out. So that was kind of my just last ditch effort. I didn't know what I was going to do after that, and I somehow had to work it, but somehow paralleled into that spot. And then I called the customer, and the customer asked me for my PO numbers, and I was just really polite and really friendly, said y'all a few times. It's Tennessee. And before you go and say I'm being rude, I say y'all. I live in Texas. I'm just saying, if you say y'all and you don't add a G to the end of some of your words, like just saying, you kind of can have a better conversation with some folks. And the dude was like, you know what? Yeah, come on, just come on in whenever you can come in anytime after, I think he said 5:30, and I was like, oh, thank God. So I ended up I finished my split just in case, and ended up getting there in time. But yeah, just like the parking situation, I don't understand how it seems to be worse. If there's less trucks, how is there less parking? I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Bizarre to me. Okay, so I was having this conversation yesterday with this team couple, and they're considering, which by the way, hello, I know they watched the videos because they had pulled up to my truck and said they had just watched my last video. I would mention his name and her name, but I don't know if they want that to happen. But really nice couple, and they're thinking about getting a new truck, and we were talking about the Freightliner versus Peterbilt. Now, when I had my video the other day talking about some of the things I didn't like about the Freightliner and some of the things that I felt Peterbilt did better, there were some die-hard Freightliner fanboys that came into the comments and were just being absolutely obnoxious. They're like Cubs and Cardinals fans. When it comes to St. Louis Cardinals, there's some obnoxious Cubs fans, but there's also some obnoxious St. Louis Cardinals fans. It's a pretty big rivalry, and there's some people on both sides of that are just annoying as hell. And there were some comments that came in and just, not making any damn sense in calling me a Peterbilt fanboy and all that stuff, even though I very explicitly said in the video I own, or I have both trucks. I have a Peterbilt and I have 2 Freightliners, and I have good things to say about both. But so we're going back and forth with some of these guys who aren't making any good points at all. So this morning, I tried to make a list as objectively as I possibly can. Tried to make a list of the pros and cons of the Peterbilt and a Freightliner. And please, if you have a Freightliner, and if you're not one of the obnoxious ones, and that's just your truck, you like it, you're a fan of it, don't need or want to go. If you have a Volvo or a Kenworth, it's not relevant for you. But if you love Freightliner and you're all about it and you've got your reasons and that's your story and you're sticking to it, please don't be offended by this. I don't mean to offend you. I do mean to offend the trolls that are just obnoxious. And just so you know, the newcomers to this channel, if you troll me in the comments, it's just going to fuel me to do or say something that you don't like. It's just fuel for my fire. So I'm going through this, and I'm just gonna say it, okay? I'm just gonna be honest with you. Again, I have both trucks. Not have just driven both trucks. I currently have both trucks running freight, Peterbilt and Freightliner. Really, when it comes down to it, the only thing that I had that beat Peterbilt was the size of the refrigerator, or the capability of putting a larger refrigerator in there. That's it. I was really quite dumbfounded by it, because I went through everything. I went through storage, and I thought about the Peterbilt, and I'm like, yeah, but it has those rack areas up top. Then so I started going through everything and really trying to think, okay, what is the Freightliner? Where does it really stand out above the Peterbilt? Just a fridge. Look, I'm not trying to... Now, for my driver, Jim, who's driving my Peterbilt, he oftentimes feels bad, he says, or he tells Jenna this, because he did offer me my Peterbilt when I came back to Prime. And no, Jim, I never once even considered, and I mean this sincerely, 1000%, never once even considered taking that truck back. I love that truck, but that's your truck, right? So as long as you want to drive it, you drive it. I'm not gonna not interested in it. That's for you, man. You're a good driver, and you've become a great friend. So like, I don't take this as me saying, like, this is the truck I'm driving, okay? I'm in a Freightliner. I'm driving this truck for the next year. That's like, there's no, I accept it, and I'm fine with it. I am actually fine with it. I'm learning the truck, and it's fine. But the only pro where the Freightliner stood out above the Peterbilt was the refrigerator. And I'll go through those things over the next few weeks and months if you'd like. Obviously, the big one that I went through the other day was just the ride. There's just no comparison. I don't care if you got air ride and all that. I'm just telling you, there's no comparison. But the second thing, and let me say real quick that the biggest retort, and I saw some comments saying, I'll give up that super comfortable ride to put more money in my pocket because of mileage. Sorry, but that day is come and gone, man. My Peterbilt can do just as good mileage as both my Freightliners. It can. And the last couple models of Peterbilt 570, last couple makes are pretty damn competitive with the Freightliner. So that argument's like no longer. My Peterbilt can do 9 miles per gallon pretty much everywhere this truck can do 9 miles per gallon. It just is what it is. Like, I have all the data in my app to prove it too, but Jim works really hard on it, and he can do 9 miles per gallon in a Peterbilt. So that argument is not, the argument's no longer as valid as it used to be. It used to be, yes, Freightliners were much, much more fuel economical. Not anymore, man. Peterbilt's getting up there. It's not, if there's a difference, let's take the 23 versus the 23, it's becoming extremely marginal, if there's a difference. So the second thing, this is my second biggest, absolute biggest peeve about the damn Freightliner, is the engine brake. It is the most absurd, aggravating, annoying part of the drive by far. Now, super truckers out there will be like, oh, back in my day, we had this, we had this thing going across the steering wheel, and man, I don't give a shit about all that. I'm not a super trucker. I'm a steering wheel holder. I don't give a shit. And you have to understand, you didn't have cruise control either. These new trucks, their whole engine brake component is built into the cruise control system. So it's not even the same conversation, okay? It's not like they depend on cruise control. So it is a modern thing. Now, in a Freightliner, it's just ridiculous. If you haven't driven a Peterbilt, then you just think that that's normal. Like you don't think anything about it. If you have driven a Peterbilt, at least the last few years, a newer one, you know what I'm talking about. This truck, this Freightliner, first of all, why the hell does it have to be this big plastic handle sticking out of the steering column? Are we trying to pretend we're super truckers? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why not just make it a button or something? Like, why are we over here pretending, toggling the Jake brake like it's, it's some 20-year-old long nose? Like, come on. We don't need to pretend anything, all right? Just give me a button with an up or down or plus or minus. But the Freightliner, you cannot just leave the Jake or the engine brake setting on. You just can't leave it on. And in the Peterbilt, here's the way it works in the Peterbilt, and this is the way it should work. Again, steering wheel holder, listen to my podcast going down the road, comfortable, AC going. I don't need all that old school shit. I ain't trying to prove nothing. With a Peterbilt, if you want to go, let's say 60 miles per hour, you set your cruise control at 60 miles per hour, you kind of understand what kind of hills you're going to deal with for the day, you set your engine brake on setting 1, 2, or 3, and you don't do anything else the rest of the day. You don't have to turn that off. You don't have to switch the set. You just leave it there your whole drive. You do 600 miles, you leave it on the whole drive, because you've told your truck you would like to be held at close to or around 60 miles per hour. And the truck's like, okay, that means if you hit 64, I need to slow you down to 60. If you are at 57, I need to speed you up to 60. Pretty simple concept. Freightliner, you can't have it on all the time. So if you want the truck to stay at 60, you better be prepared to work the shit out of it, because what happens is you got to set at 60, gets up there at 63, 64, coming a little bit downhill. So you go toggle this thing, and if you don't, and it's gonna very quickly, especially last night, because I only had 6,000 pounds in the box, very quickly dropped me down to 55 miles per hour. Well, and then I got to go toggle it up, because if I don't, it'll bring me to a freaking stop on the interstate. So what's going to happen when I toggle it off? Well, I've got the cruise control set at 60, so the truck's just going to freaking ramp up and try to push me back up to 60, because I'm going down a hill. So almost immediately, I'm already back in the same boat I was a quarter of a mile ago. I'm already just shooting right up there to 63, 64, toggle back down, up, drops me right down to 56, toggle up. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But if you don't have cruise control on, then the engine brake doesn't, in these new trucks, doesn't work the way it's designed. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. You're just toggling and working with this thing all freaking night long, especially if you're under 20,000 pounds. Now, I will say, if you're fully loaded at 43,000 pounds, it's a little more intuitive because it has to work a lot harder to slow you down. But if you got like 20,000 pounds or less, you're just sitting here toggling the damn engine brake all night long. And again, if you've only driven Freightliner, you're probably thinking, oh, it sounds pretty normal to me. But if you drove Peterbilt, it's like, yeah, this is 2023. And thus, if I tell the truck to do 60 miles per hour and maintain 60 miles per hour, you hold the steering wheel. And look at the road in front of you and look at your mirrors. That's what you do. You're not doing this and why am I at 55? Well, why am I at 65? All night long. You're pretty much going to be held at 60 because that Peterbilt knows when you drop down to 60 coming down that hill, that's where you want to be. So it ain't going to continue trying to drop you down to 45 until you turn the engine brake off. It just automatically turns it off. Why? Because you've already told it you want to do 60. I've never told a Freightliner I want to do 50. I told it I want to do 60. Why the hell are you slowing me all the way down to 50? Oh boy. So it's just one of the many things where you're just like, why? There's so many other, like, I'm tired of pretending. I wasn't pretending. Like, I actually thought I was being pretty objective, and I actually thought there's a lot of good in both trucks, but I'm just not. I think Freightliners are just so popular because they're just cheap. They're cheaper in a lot of ways. They're cheap, definitely easier to get worked on, and they're pretty damn fuel efficient. Like, it's not because everybody's like, oh my God, I would love to have a Freightliner, because most people would love to have another truck more. Volvos, I hear, are really, I've never driven a Volvo, but everyone I talk to who's driven a Volvo says they're very comfortable, have a great smooth ride. I know a lot of people with Volvos. Kenworth is kind of just a Peterbilt, but hear great things about Kenworth. International, we ain't even gonna talk about that. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's like, I just love my International, can't wait till I get a new International. But Freightliners, like, just another thing, the surfaces are just so useless. Like, there's this little thing back there in the sleeper underneath the knobs that damn near nothing will even stay in that thing if you're parked. So I know for a fact there's nothing that's going to stay in there while you're driving. But the tray that comes out, so I had a salad this morning and I'm on a slope. Well, there's that, everything just wants to fall off that tray. If the tray's too low, your knees and your legs can't go underneath it. So it doesn't work like a table. You just kind of have to sit off to the side and, eat your stuff at an angle, but nothing will stay on it. There's like no surfaces where things will stay. And in the Peterbilt, you got cup holders back there. You have not only the table that comes out at the proper height, it opens up and it has a cabinet space inside the table, but there's also a countertop right next to it. And then you have the shelves up top that have nice deep lips, and that's where you can put food and soup and all that stuff, and it stays there. There's just, I'm sorry for the rant, you guys. I took so much flack from people who are not making good arguments about the Freightliner, and I really sat down and I tried to think about this objectively, and I'm like, holy shit, there is not really much of anything that I could say, having driven both trucks for substantial time and having owned both trucks. It's an inferior truck. I'm sorry. And if you haven't driven a Peterbilt, if you haven't gone out there and put 50,000, 100,000 miles on a Peterbilt, let's not get into the whole shop argument. We can have that too. Then you can't come in the comments and say, oh, a Freightliner is a superior truck because of this, that, and this and that. I'm telling you, it's not. I'm telling it's not. And the biggest argument's always been fuel efficiency. That argument is not as valid anymore. Peterbilts are getting right up there with Freightliner. I don't even know what the point in saying all that is. I was so damn aggravated this morning because I only had 6,000 pounds and I could not. So these hills and mountains here in Tennessee were just enough to where the truck was trying to get out from under me, so I didn't want to, just be on the brakes all night. But I basically couldn't really properly utilize the engine brake in this Freightliner because, if I was coming down a mountain and I set it at, say, 57, 58, and it started wanting to, really let loose and get to 63, 64 miles per hour, okay, I'd engage Jake, and because I only had 6,000 pounds in the box, it immediately had me down to 50, 52, 53 miles per hour, like immediately. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I toggle it off, and then it just, boom, hits the fuel, because I told it I want to be at 57, 58, and so it's like, yeah, we got to get right back up there, and it's like, well, then why the hell did you slow me all the way down here? Why didn't you just stop slowing me when you got to what I've told you I want to be at? Because now you're launching me past the 58 that I have it set at and right back to the 64 that I just tried to slow you down from. Oh, it's so damn annoying. Anyway, this thing's almost half an hour. So take that, trolls. You leave, and I'm not talking about just regular folks. Please don't take this the wrong way. If you just love Freightliner, good. I'm talking about the people who are, oh, you're a Peterbilt fanboy and you don't know what you're talking about and you just hate Freightliner. This is what happens when you tell me that shit. I'm gonna really let you have it with a truth bomb, at least from my opinion. Be safe, make good decisions, always drive, thrive. Talk to you all soon.